let's talk about something we have all felt. You know that feeling when you feel like you're your own worst enemy? You set a goal, you're fired up, you're motivated, but somehow you wind up right back at square one. Well, today we're going to get into exactly why that happens and, more importantly, how to finally break that cycle.
It really is the million-dollar question, isn't it? We all have things we want to do. Get healthier, be more productive, maybe save some money. We start off so strong. And then, poof, it all just kind of falls apart. So what is that something that always seems to get in the way?
Just picture it, right? You start that new fitness plan with all this energy. Or maybe it's that budget you swore you'd stick to. The motivation is real. But give it a few days, a week, maybe two, and those old habits just creep right back in. It is so frustratingly common.
But here's the thing, and this is really important. This isn't about you being lazy or not having enough willpower. The sources for this explainer point to something way more subtle. It's like these little glitches in our brain's operating system, these hidden cognitive traps that are tripping us up when we're not even looking. So let's pull back the curtain and see what they are.
All right, let's get into trap number one. We're going to call this one the distorted lens. It's this way of thinking that completely skews how we see our progress, and honestly, it turns tiny little bumps in the road into total disasters. The official name for it is all or nothing thinking. So what is it really? Well, at its core, it's when your brain gets stuck seeing everything in extremes. You're either a smashing success or you're a complete failure. There's no in between. It's kind of like looking at the world through a camera that only has two settings, blindingly bright or pitch black. And that lack of gray area, that's where we get into trouble.
And here's a perfect example of how it plays out. Over on the left, you see the trap in action. I missed one gym session, so the whole plan is ruined. It's over. But look at the alternative on the right. It reframes the whole situation. It's not about being perfect. It's about making progress. One stumble doesn't mean the entire journey is a failure.
So how do you catch yourself falling into this trap? You got to start listening to your own inner monologue, your self-talk. The language of this trap is always absolute. When you hear yourself using words like always, never, everything, or worthless, ding, 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 that's a huge red flag. That's the distorted lens at work, and just noticing it is a huge first step.
Now for our second trap, which, by the way, often goes hand in hand with the first one. I like to call this the draining battery, and it's all about how we think about self-control. Because here's the secret. It's not some infinite resource we can just draw on whenever we want.
So, the fancy scientific term for this is ego depletion. But don't let the name scare you. The idea behind it is actually super simple. Think of your willpower as a limited resource, like the battery on your phone. Every time you use it, whether it's to resist that donut or to force yourself to finish a boring report, you use up a little bit of that charge. The best analogy is to think of your self-control not as a personality trait, but as an actual physical muscle. And just like any muscle, the more you use it, the more tired it gets. Every decision you make, every temptation you fight off, that's another rep at the gym for your willpower muscle. It gets fatigued.
And that's the bottom line. By the end of a long, stressful day filled with decisions, your willpower muscle's exhausted. You're in a state of ego depletion. And that's exactly why it's so much easier to stick to a diet at 9 a.m. than it is at 9 p.m. You've simply run out of juice.
This leads us perfectly into our third and final trap. Let's call it the siren's call of now. This one explains the huge, massive gap between the person who makes the virtuous plan and the person who actually has to follow through. The formal name is present bias. So present bias is basically our brain's obsession with instant gratification. We are hardwired to want good things right now. It's why future you is this amazing person who eats salads and wakes up early to exercise. But when the future becomes the present, well, present you sees a pizza and a comfy couch, and suddenly those long-term goals feel very, very far away.
The economist David Laipson just nailed it with this quote. Our intentions for our future selves are always heroic, right? But when that future actually arrives, our brain defaults to whatever feels good in the moment. It's a fundamental tug-of-war happening inside our own heads.
Okay, so we've mapped out the traps, the distorted lens, the draining battery, and the siren's call of now. And I know, it might sound a little bit grim, but here's the good news, the great news. Once you have the map, you can actually navigate the terrain. So let's pivot from the problem to the solution, and let's build ourselves a new toolkit.
And the whole mindset shift we need kicks off right here with this brilliant quote from Simon Sinek. We think achieving big things requires these huge, intense, heroic efforts.
But that's a total misunderstanding of how progress actually works. The real magic isn't in intensity. It's in consistency.
I mean, this just makes it crystal clear, doesn't it? That one grueling 2-hour workout, that's intensity. But which one is actually going to make you healthier in the long run? That one session or a simple 20-minute walk day in and day out? Consistency builds habits and momentum in a way that intensity just can't. It works with your brain's limits, not against them. So here it is, your practical Get Started Today toolkit. First, to fight that all-or-nothing thinking, think in percentages. So your workout wasn't perfect? Who cares? Maybe it was a 30% success. That is infinitely better than 0%. Second, to manage that willpower battery, you have to automate good decisions. Make the right choice the easiest choice. Put your gym clothes out the night before. And finally, to beat present bias, you have to find some joy in the process. Find a form of exercise you actually like. If you can give present you an immediate reward, you're aligning what feels good now with what's good for you later.
So when you boil it all down, what's the ultimate takeaway? Your brain isn't broken. It's not trying to sabotage you. It's just running on some old buggy software. These traps, the all-or-nothing thinking, the ego depletion, the present bias, they're a part of being human, but they do not have to be your destiny. Now you have the map. You have the tools. The only question left is, where do you want to go?